Maybe someday we will have a robot president. You know, couldn't be worse than what we have right now, shortly after his wife gives birth. And he keeps saying, it was brought to his attention today that we're the only country that does mail-in voting. When is somebody going to step in and tell him that is not true? 34 countries have mail-in voting. All the countries that have mail-in voting. So here's where the real magic comes in. That was yesterday. Guess what he did today? That's right, he voted by mail today for the special election in Florida. He's unbelievable.
Jimmy Kimmel did not just point out a little Trump hypocrisy and move on. He basically held up a mirror and showed the country a man who lies so constantly that he cannot even keep track of what he said the day before. And once Kimmel started digging into Trump's Iran war talk, the nonstop lies, the propaganda machine, and the way it conveniently pulled attention away from Epstein, it became obvious this was not just some embarrassing contradiction. This was the kind of reckless behavior that looks like criminal negligence dressed up as patriotism. Kimmel opened the show with one simple comment, and the scary part is that the longer time passed, the more that comment started to feel like a warning nobody wanted to hear.
Maybe someday we will have a robot president. You know, couldn't be worse than what we have right now.
And honestly, Kimmel had a point, because at least a robot would actually read the intelligence reports. At least a robot would remember the policies it supported last week. At least a robot would not stumble into a war just to redirect the headlines away from a sex trafficking scandal. But America does not have a robot sitting in the Oval Office. It has Donald Trump. And Kimmel was ready to prove just how dangerously human and painfully clueless that reality really is. The first crack in Trump's so-called political spell showed up right in his own territory, Palm Beach, the home of Mar-a-Lago, the place he dominated just 2 years ago by a huge margin. And even there, the voters turned around and rejected his pick.
Got a sneak peek at what might be in store for Team Trump come November at the elections. I mentioned last night, Mr. Ban Mail-in Voting voted by mail in a special election in Palm Beach. This is a district Trump won by double digits 2 years ago, and the district he lives in. But seems like maybe the magic is wearing off, because last night, a Democrat, Emily Gregory, scored a major upset over a Republican that Trump endorsed. She won one solidly red seat in the state legislature, which is a real kick in the golf balls for Mar-a-Lago.
Think about how insane that is. Trump personally backed a candidate in his own district, gave him that full, complete, and total endorsement routine, acted like the guy was basically chosen by destiny, and the result was still a loss. Not to a Republican, not to some independent fluke, but to a Democrat in Florida, in Trump's own backyard, which is the kind of political humiliation you cannot spin away, no matter how loud you yell on television.
2 days ago, Trump said the Republican candidate, John Maples, had his complete and total endorsement, and that John will never let you down. And he's right, he won't, because he's back to work as a financial planner. He lost the race. The idea that Trump voted by mail at the same time he's trying to ram this Save My Fat Orange Ass Act through Congress right now, which is a bill that would do away with mail-in ballots, has put leaders in the GOP in a bit of a pickle.
And yes, that ridiculous name is real. Nobody is exaggerating it. It is not called election security. It is not called voter integrity. It is literally called Trump protection, which tells you everything you need to know right there. Funniest part is that Trump himself voted by mail, the exact same method he keeps attacking and trying to restrict. Because when it comes to Trump, the rules are never meant for him. The rules are meant for everyone else, while he plays by his own private set of standards.
Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, was asked about this latest act of brazen hypocrisy and did a little tap dance around it.
President Trump has railed against mail-in voting as rigged. He said it's a form of cheating as recently as Monday. But in yesterday's special election in Florida, he voted by mail. How do you square those two statements?
Look, I think some states have handled mail-in balloting well. I think Florida is a good example of that. They don't allow fraud, and they have great systems. That is not true in other parts of the country, and that is the concern, especially in a state like California.
Right. You know, Florida, as we all know, is very buttoned down, very normal, whereas California, it's a madhouse. Listen, I've lived in both states. I've lived in Florida. I've lived in California. The only thing Florida does better is get manatees addicted to meth, all right? If you're looking to buy a hot dog from a woman in a G-string, Florida is the place you want to be. Otherwise, you're better off.
And what makes this even crazier is that this is not even an exaggeration. Florida literally has sea life dealing with meth addiction because of contaminated water runoff. But somehow Mike Johnson is out here acting like Florida is the gold standard of perfect systems while California is some kind of lawless disaster zone. So according to their logic, the state with drugged-up marine animals is the well-run one, and the state with the world's 5th largest economy is the chaotic madhouse. That is not messaging. That is straight-up delusion. And then Kimmel hit the real nightmare point, the part that should scare everyone. Trump does not even seem to understand what is happening in the war he is involved in.
Largely because, according to NBC News, Trump gets a sizzle reel every day that only shows us attacking them. NBC said there's a daily montage. It typically runs for about 2 minutes, sometimes longer. He sees it every day. One official described the videos as a series of clips of stuff blowing up. And these video briefings are said to be fueling concerns among some of Trump's allies that he might not be receiving or absorbing the complete picture of the war. He's only seeing the positive stuff, which helps to explain why he keeps saying we already won the war that is still going on.
Trump does not get serious briefings like an actual leader. He gets a flashy highlight reel like he is watching edits from a reality show season. 2 minutes of explosions, dramatic footage, things blowing up, no real discussion of casualties, no strategy, no long-term consequences, just a Michael Bay-style montage designed to make him feel like a tough guy. That is not what a commander-in-chief looks like. That is a grown man being entertained like a toddler, basically shown cartoons so he does not throw a tantrum.
White House spokesman Caroline Leavitt released a statement pushing back on the story. She said anyone who has been present for conversations with President Trump knows he actively seeks and solicits the opinions of everyone in the room and expects full-throated honesty from all his top advisors. That sounds like him, right? I mean, this is the guy who said I know more about ISIS than all the generals. That's Donald, very collaborative Donald Trump.
And the wildest part is that Trump actually said this is not satire, this is not a joke written for television, this is real life. So when his spokesperson goes on camera claiming Trump welcomes different opinions, what she really means is Trump demands people tell him he is right. And if you are not agreeing with him, if you are not feeding his ego, you are gone, you are fired, and you are replaced by someone who will clap like a trained SEAL.
Every day, they're bringing him these fun little action movies of us blowing stuff up. Everyone's telling him how great he's doing. He's got 4 whole cable networks dedicated to kissing his ass 24/7. His staff is terrified to ever bring him any bad news, and he has the memory of a worm at the bottom of a bottle of mezcal. And this is the man in charge of sending our children to war, at least the ones whose dads don't have a good podiatrist to get them out of it. It's really something.
And this is not even an insult anymore. It is a legitimate observation that sounds like a medical concern. Trump cannot remember his own policies. He cannot remember that he voted by mail while trying to attack mail-in voting. He cannot remember the details of a war he brags about winning. And this is the same man making decisions that could send other people's kids into combat. Of course, not his kids, because Trump has always had an escape hatch. Bone spurs kept him out of Vietnam, and money will keep his children out of Iran, but everyone else's family gets treated like disposable pieces on his chessboard. And the damage from this war is not just about American lives either, it also shattered America's alliances.
By the way, that is another consequence of this war in Iran. The president's former pen pal, Kim Jong-un, says the lesson that he's learned is that you can't trust the sweet talk from the U.S. And as a result, he says he's going to make sure North Korea's nuclear status is irreversible. So I guess Trump wrote all those love letters for no reason at all. And to really rub it into his pumpkin face, Kim Jong-un was just reelected to a 3rd term with 99.93% of the vote. The other 0.07% are dead. They're deceased now.
Trump was out here writing friendly letters to dictators, calling them his friend, bragging like he had some special bond. And now Kim Jong-un has learned a hard lesson, that America under Trump cannot be trusted. So North Korea's nuclear program is basically locked in forever at this point, irreversible, unstoppable. That is what Trump leaves behind, not peace, but a stronger nuclear threat. And as if that was not bad enough, the Secretary of Defense looks like he has completely lost the plot.
You can see Pete is fired up.
The President has made it clear that you will not have a nuclear weapon. The War Department agrees. Our job is to ensure that. And so we're keeping our hand on that throttle as long as hard as is necessary to ensure the interests of the United States of America are achieved.
That's the moment the Cialis kicked in.
Just look closely at him. Watch his eyes. Watch how his words start dragging. how his pacing slows down like his brain is fighting through fog. You can literally see the medicated haze settling in while he is standing there speaking. And this is the man giving a press conference about nuclear war while looking chemically checked out. That is not leadership. That is like Weekend at Bernie's, except the corpse is holding the launch codes. And then you have the negotiation team, the group Trump sent out to supposedly fix the war he helped ignite.
Iranians have said they will not accept Jared Kushner or Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, as negotiators. The Iranians have a nickname for Jared. They call him the sorrowful broomstick, which sounds better in Farsi, and it's weird that the Iranians don't want to negotiate with Trump's son-in-law, whose primary job experience before this was holding Ivanka's purse. It seems very unfriendly. They want J.D. Vance to be the point person on talks.
Iran apparently has a nickname for Jared Kushner, and it is not a respectful one either. They are not scared of him. They are not impressed by him. They basically laugh at him because his entire qualification for Middle East negotiations is being married into Trump's family and standing around holding his wife's purse. That is it. That is the whole resume. And Iran basically said, no thanks. We would rather deal with someone who cannot even order a donut without struggling.
The lives of millions of people are now in the hands of a man who struggled to order a donut. And whatever the outcome, the president has been very successful, you have to admit, in changing the narrative from the Trump-Epstein files to the war. There's been very little in the way of repercussions, in this country at least, for the many men who socialized with Epstein and did business with him, including one of his former lawyers, Epstein pal and Trump sycophant Alan Dershowitz.
And that brings us to J.D. Vance, the vice president, the guy being treated like the main point person for peace talks, which already sounds like a parody. But Kimmel's real point was way darker than that. This war is not just a foreign policy disaster, it is also a distraction, a giant smoke bomb to pull attention away from Epstein, away from the files, away from the evidence suggesting Trump knew what was happening with those girls. Trump did not launch this for national security. Anyone saking Juet, I put US say he launched it to change the conversation, and the worst part is, it worked. While the country was looking the other way, the economic fallout started crushing regular people.
I have to give them points for imagination. According to the New York Times, in some states, gas prices have now jumped more than 30% over the last 2 weeks. And according to the White House, no, they haven't. But what happened to all that oil we got from Venezuela? I thought we were going to be swimming in it. And on top of that, the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz is preventing imports of nitrogen, which is a key ingredient in the fertilizer American farmers need to grow crops, to grow our food. The price of fertilizer has skyrocketed since the war started.
Gas prices shot up by 30%. Fertilizer prices went through the roof. Food supply concerns started growing. And what did the White House do? They denied it. They acted like people were imagining it. That is not even political spin at that point. That is straight up gaslighting about gas prices. Trump claimed Venezuela's oil would rescue us, so where is it? Trump claimed we would be drowning in oil, so where is it? It never showed up because it was never real. It was always a fantasy sold to justify a war that was really about distracting people from Epstein.
Trump administration is shelling out $1 billion of our money to a French energy company to cancel construction of wind turbines in North Carolina and New York. He's paying this company to not build these renewable energy farms because he has this weird hatred of what he calls windmills. He says they're unsightly, they're ugly monsters, they're losers, a con job, they're bad for the environment, and they make a lot of noise, which is exactly how most of us feel about him.
And then you have the absurd cherry on top. $1 billion, not spent on infrastructure, not spent on helping Americans, but spent to block wind turbines from being built because Trump thinks they look ugly. He calls them ugly monsters, losers, a con job, like he is reviewing a bad art installation instead of talking about national policy. And Kimmel's punchline, which is honestly how most people feel when they hear Trump talk, is not even comedy anymore. It is basically a psychological projection in real time.
The president, there was some major progress yesterday thanks to a mysterious gift.
You think I trust them? I don't trust them.
Then why bother talking to them?
Because they're going to make a deal. They're going to make a deal. They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. And it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it is a very significant prize. And they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it, so that meant One thing to me, we're dealing with the right people.
At the end of the day, Jimmy Kimmel did not embarrass Donald Trump. Trump did that all by himself. Kimmel simply put it on record. Night after night, lie after lie, contradiction after contradiction, one reckless decision stacked on top of the next. Trump once said, "Maybe someday we will have a robot president." And Kimmel's response was brutally simple. It could not possibly be worse than what we have now. And with every day that has passed since then, that line has started to feel less like a joke and more like the most depressing truth imaginable.